Both Donald Trump and Joe Biden agree on one thing. They say a critical audience for tonight's debate could be suburban women. Has our country's racial reckoning changed hearts and minds for this key group of voters? 4 months after the death of George Floyd, our Devin Dwyer went to the Minneapolis suburbs to find out.
So how many people on this block, if you had to guess, are Republican?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Twyla Dang has lived in the suburbs of Minneapolis for 20 years, a mother of 3 and Democrat in a sea of mostly white Republicans.
Have you felt comfortable living here?
Well, I've lived in Minnesota for a long time, so proximity to whiteness is something that you just get used to.
After the death of George Floyd, her community was gripped by protests for racial justice and scenes of violence and looting just a few miles away.
It felt like the energy around it was more difficult for us than the actual actions themselves. Those actions did not collectively spread down this far that way.
Everybody put the fist up right now!
Did you get the sense at all that the movement changed any views on this Republican bloc, especially given the fact that they know you?
The next door pages were on fire, Facebook is on fire. But I would say neighbor to neighbor, person to person. I think we all know pretty much where everybody lands, you know, in terms of how they feel about things.
The fallout has scrambled Minnesota politics and injected new uncertainty into how suburban women might vote in this Midwest battleground.
I watched my city burn down, and we had the National Guards here. They didn't call the shots. I just feel like they were just kept talking and talking, and there was no action from them. Oh my God, oh my God.
Dawn L. lived 5 blocks from where George Floyd was killed, documenting the protests out her window. Weeks later, she moved from South Minneapolis to the suburbs where she felt safer, and after years of voting for Democrats, now says she's voting for Trump.
I've leaned towards the other side, Red, because I feel like our leadership did not step up to the plate, honestly. I think there's some things that Donald Trump and the Red Party really need to address and work on as well. But I feel with everything that happened, that the Blue Party,
The Democrats,
may make it a little worse.
Lawless criminals terrorize Minneapolis.
The Trump campaign sees Minnesota as its best shot at flipping a blue state to red in November. After losing by just 45,000 votes 4 years ago, Trump spending millions on TV ads like these meant to appeal to voters' fears.
So voters who are concerned about racial justice are more likely and more energized to vote Democratic, and voters who are concerned about law and order are, really listening to President Trump's message about them. But I don't think either of these two groups were likely to switch their votes.
So maybe it didn't change a lot of minds, but
Right.
it certainly energized people.
It energizes them.
People.
That's right.
The latest ABC News Washington Post poll finds Minnesota voters trust Joe Biden over Donald Trump by 11 points on issues of crime and safety, and by 24 points on equal treatment for racial groups. Suburban mom Jamie Becker-Finn says Trump's message has backfired.
We are sick of men like Paul Gazelka and Donald Trump telling us how we feel. We have voices. We are full human beings who can share how we actually feel about things.
Last month, Becker-Finn, a Democrat who serves in the state legislature, took to Twitter to push back on Republican claims that women like her are scared to death of the protests. Her hashtag I am a suburban mom going viral.
People are afraid, but they're afraid of their neighbors getting sick. That's where the anxiety is.
She says the pandemic, jobs and wages, and the environment are bigger concerns.
Like a top 3 issue when I'm talking to voters is climate change. Even right now, despite everything going on, it's climate change.
Really?
Minnesota hasn't backed a Republican for president since 1972, the longest-running streak of any state in the country. But many analysts say changing demographics and a shifting economy on top of recent racial unrest have put Minnesota's 10 electoral votes in play.
I like to consider myself a little bit of like a Reagan Republican.
Michelle FAZI, a working mother of 3, says family finances motivate her choice and that the pandemic public health restrictions and their impact on businesses worry her more than the virus itself.
Right now, I would say my focus is more immediate on what, the administration that I think can best pull us out of this crisis the fastest.
Joe Biden says it's a patriotic duty of all Americans at all times to wear masks. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that. I don't like this being a federal mandate. I just don't believe this is an enormous country, and I just don't believe that what's right necessarily or necessary in the city of New York is necessarily necessary in Iowa.
The battle for Minnesota and other upper Midwestern states may ultimately boil down to suburban women on the margins, like retired accountant and Catholic stepmother of 3, Ann Swenson, who is undecided.
What's making it so hard for you?
I'm mostly a fiscal conservative and more of a social moderate. There's two things about Donald Trump. First, being a fiscal conservative, I'm not excited about what's happened with the budget. I feel the deficit spending, even without the COVID, is not something that I'm excited about. The other is the rhetoric and the civility. When did being civil to people be a sign of weakness?
So why can't you vote for Joe Biden?
I can't vote for Joe Biden because I don't want the country to, I don't want the Vice President Harris following. I don't know necessarily that Joe Biden would make 4 years, and if he doesn't make 4 years, then she's in automatically.
Trump is counting on unhappy voters like Swenson to stay home.
The strategy for Donald Trump is he probably can't win those suburban women over, but can he give them reasons why they shouldn't vote for Joe Biden? And that he can keep them from turning out to vote and, let's say, get his base to turn out at an even higher percentage than they did 4 years ago. That's the recipe for a victory here.
Meanwhile, Democrats are rallying for turnout as voting gets underway and facing lagging enthusiasm for Biden.
To be honest, I think a lot of people are going to do a little hold their nose and vote. At the end of the day, we have a candidate. And if you have the candidate and you actually believe in the things you say you believe in, you cannot opt out of an election. You cannot complain about your choices. You cannot say, well, I can't vote for that in good conscience. But you'll just let this continue to happen?
An appeal to conscience and common sense as the 2020 campaign turns toward the high-stakes presidential debates with all eyes on voters in the suburbs. For ABC News Live, I'm Devin Dwyer in Minneapolis.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.